Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Andrew Snorton. I'm a member of the Sigma Eta Lambda chapter located here in Loganville, Conyers, and today's video chat is going to be giving you a point of reference regarding the ACT and SAT. So if you're a student who is thinking about going to a four-year college or institution or things along those lines, this is definitely for you. And the same for parents and guardians, as the goal is to give you a better point of reference regarding these tests. And in general, the ACT and SAT are the number two factor regarding college admissions. Read the fine print regarding schools that are test optional, because that might not always extend to financial aid. So unless you've got deep pockets, you want to make sure you're in contact with the admissions departments of the schools you're applying to. Read the fine print so you're aware of how testing will work at that particular college or university. And please do not believe the lie that these are the same tests. They are not. While there are a couple of things that are similar, they are not the same. So again, the goal of today is to give you a better working idea of how they're set up so you can better action plan. Only thing that's similar is that for some of you on a Saturday, you're going to be spending a lot of time at somebody's school or testing center. So let's take a look at the very first thing, which is going to be the ACT. And as you can see, the goal that they try to do is physically and mentally wear you out early. As you look on the screen, the English and the math combined are an hour and 45 minutes of testing. So they give you the two longest parts of the exam first, so that way by the time you get to break, you want to get out of there. And believe me, there are students that physically and mentally get worn out. You'll notice the second half of the test, which is the reading and the science, are a combined 70 minutes. So the back end of the test is barely as long as the math section. There is an essay which is optional, which adds on another 35 minutes. So even if you do the reading, science, and the optional essay, that's basically as long as the first half of the test. So please be aware of what they try to do to set you up. In regards to how to operate, these are simple themes to sum it up for you. Of course, you want to take some type of tutoring or prep, but here are the essentials. With the English, think like a traditional writer. So all those writing rules, grammar rules, you got to remember all of those. For math, it's going to extend to how long ago and how many steps, because in general, you've done the math, which is mainly algebra and geometry. The problem might be it might have been a year, 2 years, or longer since you've used those. So how long ago and how many steps for the math? Reading, you mainly need to focus on themes and concepts. There's very little vocabulary, so if you're not a vocabulary person, this kind of works to your advantage. And for science, you basically have to read charts, interpret the data, and there's one passage you look at as a compare and contrast. The essay is optional, and to be honest with you, do not take it. Otherwise, you're going to be there for like 500,000 hours, and that's not what you're trying to do on a Saturday. The scoring is pretty straightforward. Each section is graded on a 36-point scale, so 36 is the max you can get. When they talk about your composite, that means the mean or average score you get on all four sections. Your super score, all that means is regardless of how many times you've tested, your super score is going to be the best score that you've gotten on the English, the best you've gotten on the math, the best you've gotten on the reading, the best you've gotten on the science. And based on your best, they will go ahead and find the mean or average of your best to form your super score. So basically they form another composite score. And to simplify what makes a good score, it's relative to where you are applying. So a composite of 24 may get you a full ride at Fort Valley State. A composite of 24 may not get you into the University of Georgia. So you have to be in contact with your admissions departments, and you can take the exam as many times as you need to. Now the SAT, it tries to wear you out, but it wears you out a little bit differently. The reading section is the first section that you do, and it's a little bit over an hour. Then you have a writing and language section, which is a quicker tempo, as you see, 35 minutes. After your break, you have a math section, but they break it up into a no calculator, and that's exactly what it says. You got to problem solve without a calculator, and it's 25 minutes long. Then you have a calculator section, which is almost an hour long. So they try to wear you out a little bit differently. You'll notice there's an essay as well, which is optional, but you'll notice it's 50 minutes long. So if you do all these sections, you're going to be in there starting Thanksgiving and getting out at Christmas, literally and figuratively. But again, they try to wear you out, but they wear you out a little bit differently than how the ACT does. You want to be aware of that. Okay, the themes you have to operate under the reading, it leans more towards vocabulary as well as themes and concepts. So that means you have to have solid vocabulary skills, context clues, things along those lines. Writing and language, you have to think like a traditional writer. So think like you're sitting in an English class, literature class, all those grammar rules, punctuation rules, etc. So it's kind of sort of like the ACT English. The math is similar in that you have to operate under the lens of how long ago and how many steps, but there's more math topics that they cover in the SAT. So the SAT will cover algebra, geometry, pre-calc, and a little bit of prob and statistics. So they go in more depth and detail on the math here than they do in the ACT, and you got to do some math without a calculator. But the unifying theme with the essay, don't do it unless you feel like staying there all day and it really doesn't impact your score the way that you think. Now, coming to scoring, you'll notice that the SAT, it's a maximum of 1,600. Half of your score, meaning a maximum of 800, is based on what you do on the reading as well as writing and language. That forms halves form the other half of your score. So that's how you get a maximum of 1,600. It's a maximum of 800 on those sections. As you're seeing, you can take the exam as often as you need. And again, a good score is relative to where you're applying. A 1,200 SAT score, like a combined 1,200 SAT score, probably gets you into Georgia State and gets you money. A combined 1,200 on the SAT for Emory may not get you in. So again, you want to be in contact with your admissions departments to be aware. And as a side note, if you're a student athlete, it works a little bit differently, but again, a good score is relative to where you're applying. Now, on either test, the bold is you want to preview both before you take either exam. And even though there's a number of counselors that say take both and see what happens, do not do that at all. Unless you really feel like amplifying your stress levels. Not only that, when counselors tell you to take both and see what happens, most students aren't preparing for it anyway. So why would you walk into something unprepared? If you have not tested, have someone like me preview both. That way you get familiar with how they're set up, and then you can decide for yourself which route you're going to take. Another thing is start early. Ideally, before your junior year, preview both, and then ideally take whatever test once during the fall semester, once during the spring. Both have summer dates, but give yourself a big enough window to get what you need to get so you can go where you're trying to go and do what you need to do. And speaking of doing what you need to do, if you look at all the bullet points, the key things, go to act.org and collegeboard.com so you get all the details on test dates, registration, what you can and can't bring, all that type of stuff. Please reach out to your guidance counselor because technically you might not qualify for a fee waiver, but a lot of times they'll give you one anyway and that'll save you money. If you are a student that has accommodations like an individualized education plan, get it sent in based on the test you're going to take, because if you have some type of plan, you do qualify for extended time. Please pay attention to deadlines and pay attention to other parts of the college application process that you see. But the key thing is get some help. Don't do everything by yourself. You need to do your part, but don't do everything by yourself, and don't be left out there in the dark. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we can help you. This is part of what we do. We currently are working with students. We currently work with different schools. We've worked with different nonprofits. As an aside, I'm an alum of Wake Forest University. I've done advisory admissions with where I went to college. I've served on advisory boards ranging from Association of Wake Forest University Black Alumni, the board of the School of Divinity, so if you believe in the power of prayer, I can pray for you, and alumni council. So this is part of what we do. So I hope that today just provides you a little bit of a point of reference Obviously, you want to make sure that you're in contact with key people across the board, and you can always connect with me at the information provided. We hope that today's workshop is extremely helpful. Best wishes to each and every one of you. Continued success. Have a good day, good weekend, and we'll see you soon.